In July of 2019, President Trump convened about 200 conservative social media stars for a summit at the White House. Charlie Kirk was there, and so was James O'Keefe and Diamond and Silk. They weren't White House reporters, but these people were Trump's press corps.
You communicate directly with our citizens without having to go through the fake news filter. It's very simple. Together, you reach more people than any television broadcast network by far, not even close.
White House estimated that those social media stars had an estimated reach of 100 million people. That is nearly a third of the American population. A strong 30% of the population that to this day remains loyal to Trump and probably consumes mostly right-wing media. But back in the day, back just a decade earlier, it wasn't really like this. As Ben Smith describes in his new book, big media sites like Gawker and the Huffington Post and BuzzFeed, they use their platforms to generate clicks and traffic. They weren't necessarily in the pursuit of advancing one candidate or ideology. They were there to monetize the attention of an audience. As editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed News from 2011 to 2020, Smith helped establish the site's bona fide news department. But even from that perch, he admits he didn't see how right-wing figures would later co-opt the blogging and social media structures that some had once believed would further progressive causes. Smith writes, "I certainly hadn't realized the extent to which the right-wing populism always seemed to be sitting just down the white IKEA table from this progressive internet scene, looking over its shoulder, learning its lessons. Gasoline can create useful energy, but it can also simply burn. And by 2023, it seemed clear that the power of this new social energy had been to destroy any institution, from the media to the political establishment, that it touched. Those of us who work in media, politics, and technology are largely concerned now with figuring out how to hold these failing institutions together, or to build new ones that are resistant to the forces we helped unleash." Joining us now is the man, the author himself, Ben Smith, co-founder and editor-in-chief of Semafor and author of this new book, Traffic: Genius, Rivalry, and Delusion in the Billion-Dollar Race to Go Viral, which is out today. Ben, congratulations on this book. I don't know when you had time to write it, but you're prolific in many senses of the word. I guess I was very much struck by, I'm not going to call it a mea culpa, but this idea that, in this period of great innovation and, building new sites and things that had never existed before and the optimism inherent in that, something dark was afoot, which is the sort of keys, giving another set of people the keys, the Rosetta Stone, if you will, to building sites and learning about audiences, which would later be bastardized for totally partisan ideological purposes. Yeah, and thanks for having me on and for the kind words. And I mean, I do think, I started writing the book because it felt like this moment in some sense was coming to an end. I want to kind of go back and just figured out what was this thing we all lived through. And I think the thing that surprised me most was going back and seeing that there was this, this early internet scene where, to some degree, the explicit goal was to elect Barack Obama. For the Huffington Post, that was part of the point, and it felt, and everyone just took for granted in that world that these were college kids, young people, newly on the internet. They were Democrats. Right. Barack Obama visited Facebook. It was sort of went without saying that Facebook was like a democratic institution. But when you look back, then, and I think everybody thought, well, the high point of this whole world, this whole new digital world, is the election of Barack Obama. And, in fact, look back, and the high point, the crowning achievement of this sort of new social media world is the election of Donald Trump. Absolutely. And it's, if you look at the figures who were present at the early in these sites, like Gavin McInnes, who, of course, goes on to found the Proud Boys. He's one of the co-founders of Vice, which is anything but a sort of radical right-wing publication. But everywhere you look, and this was kind of came to me as a surprise as I was just reporting out all the characters of this early scene that, at BuzzFeed, where I later worked, the guy who founded 4chan was working out of that office. The Andrew Breitbart who was later the sort of key part of inventor of these new culture wars, was a co-founder of Huffington Post as well. Gavin McInnes, as you say, the leading Proud Boy, was at Vice. Steve Bannon kind of came in to check out Huffington Post and learn from it. And in some ways, I think they adopted the lessons more fully than anybody than most people on the left. They were most interested in just tearing down these institutions and actually. At one point, I went to see Bannon in 2016 in Trump Tower, and I was then the editor of BuzzFeed, and he was just totally puzzled
at why hadn't BuzzFeed gone all in for Bernie Sanders the way he had for Trump. Not because he loved Bernie Sanders per se, but just because that's where the traffic was. Why not just follow the heat wherever it leads?
And certainly Bannon has built a stunning amount of grift on the back of like his intellectual properties, if you will. But your sense is that it was always for the traffic. It was always for the money. It was sort of a part of the market that did not have an adequate response, and so they filled that gap. It wasn't necessarily an ideological drive that led these folks to ultimately found the institutions that they'd created.
I think these things are all tied up together. I don't think it's quite that simple, but I do think that there were these new tools that turned out to be just perfect for serving this very angry moment. Facebook in particular, was this great tool, for spreading this new real angry energy. And then as Facebook, I think, started to get freaked out by it and adjusted to it and started tweaking its dials to say, wait, we don't want people sharing fake stories about Hillary Clinton body doubles. We want like more meaningful stories that people engage with. And then what that would be was like a Donald Trump meme and you replying, kill yourself in the comments, and then that being shared to everybody because the algorithm has decided that you are deeply engaged. And, it was sort of a combination of, I think the real politics of how people felt and a system that was sort of designed to amplify what's probably kind of worst in us.
Why do you think that the people who own these sites, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or to some degree Elon Musk, even Jonah Peretti, are so reluctant to adopt the mantle of publishers? Because they have become the purveyors of information, and there's just this deep, abiding resistance to really embracing that. It's a headache for sure, but the reality is, Facebook is it's an information. It's not just a website. It's not just to connect people. It's where people get their information. The same is true for Twitter. The efforts to kind of figure out how to make Twitter responsible have been so fraught, so ham-handed. I won't even comment about what Musk is doing, but there seems to be a deep-seated cultural, it's antithetical to who these guys are.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that to some degree, it's nice to have free content rather than content you pay for. If you're a business, you get to keep all the money. So some of it is commercial, but some of it, as you say, is ideological. And I don't mean left-right ideological. I mean this sense that we can do away with all the old institutions, the old East Coast media, and if we just sort of throw it open to the crowd, they'll replace it with something better. It's actually kind of utopian, I think. And if you go back and read things from the early 2000s, which I'm sure we were probably both writing as well, there was a sense of wow, this is going to be this wide open world. It's going to overthrow a corrupt establishment media that had gotten the Iraq War so wrong. There was a lot of real optimism, I think, for good reason. But, at some point, I think they were really unable to let go of that fantasy. And I think when you look at the trajectory of those businesses now, of those sites now, I don't think it was a good business decision, among other things.
Yeah. And now we have, BuzzFeed is shuttering. BuzzFeed News is shuttering. Vice is maybe filing for bankruptcy. It's a very important time to be writing something like this. It's also, I don't know, it's kind of a depressing moment to kind of take stock of what just happened to the country and what happened to the internet in the last 15 years. Yeah,
it's a very strange moment. It was just really a trip to go back and see how we all thought about it then and how it turned out. And I think how people could have made different decisions along the way.
And we have known each other for quite some of that time, my friend.
The whole time, yeah.
Congratulations on the book, Ben Smith. The book is Traffic. Thank you for your time, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me, Alex.